Hey there, Skeleton Key here. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. And today is, of course, going to be my book report for last week, the 21st week of the year. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about where I am with finishing up this month's readathons that I'm participating in. And of course, I'm running Mysterious Mayhem. And also kind of looking ahead to June, since May ends on Friday of this week. So Saturday, I'll be jumping into the June readathons. So we'll talk about those a little bit. And if you are joining me live, there is a chat so that you can ask questions or make comments on, let me know what you're reading. And if you've read any of the books that I talk about, what you thought of them. And we can chat there. And of course, if you're watching this on replay, you can go into the comments section and comment there, and we can chat there. And yeah, hopefully I will get caught up on comments sometime this week. Yeah, and I'm gonna have to keep this a little bit short. Hopefully, I wrenched my back last night, so yeah, I've spent most of the day doing pretty much nothing, so that hopefully I can make it through this and maybe even get some work done tonight. So we'll see. But on to the book report, and share my screen and show you. I finished 4 books this last week. And so the first that I finished was Unsolved by Heather Critchlow. And this is set in Scotland. And I've never been to Scotland. I want to go to Scotland. I don't know, there's just something about Scotland that just sounds so appealing to me. And I really want to go, even though it seems to be the location of a lot of murders in books. I don't know if, I don't know, maybe it's just a very scenic location and it's like, oh, this is a good place to solve a fictional murder. Anyway, this story is the main character is a podcaster, true crime podcaster. And this actually, if you're looking at it, it's not a short book, but you can probably finish it before the end of the month if you're still looking for somebody using an alias. And it's not really much of a spoiler. In fact, I'm still not super clear on why this was even really a plot point in this, but Cal Lovett is the main character, but that is he changed his name, so this is an alias. And it's kind of explained that he changed his name because there was some notoriety involving the disappearance of his sister when he was a young child. And and that's sort of the undercurrent of this book, is that he's looking for he's trying to find out what happened to his sister. She's kind of presumed dead at this point, and who killed her. And he's talking to this guy who's incarcerated for a number of murders and on death row. And this guy is implying that he knows something about it, at least, even if he didn't kill her. But Cal is like, I bet he killed her. And so there's a storyline going through of him trying to find out if this guy on death row killed her and trying to connect the dots there. And trying to get the investigation kind of reopened in that direction. But in the meantime, he decides to take on a case, because that storyline you know, he's had several interviewers with this serial killer, and but it's not really going anywhere. And his producer is like, oh, we need something with, you know, a through line to it. And so he's like, okay, I'll take this case, this missing persons case up in Aberdeenshire, I think. And anyway, so he goes up there. And so most of the story is about this girl who went missing in 1986. And you get some flashbacks to 1986. And you know, basically she went off riding. She worked at a hotel, and I guess there were some stables, and she kind of worked at the stables. And I think she was 21 at the time. So, you know, a young woman, not a girl. And was she 21? Or now I'm getting it mixed up. I can't remember if his sister was 21 or if the Layla, I think was her name, if Layla was 21 or if they were both 21. And anyway, but you know, late teens, early 20s, let's put it that way. Young woman, she goes off riding, and several hours later, the horse comes back without a rider, and very, very injured. So, and she hasn't been seen since. So it's that storyline and his sister's storyline, and they kind of intermingle. And then there's his family drama at home, with, you know, his wife and his daughter. And usually I don't like, because that family drama, a lot of times in mystery novels, that really just kind of irks me. It's like, yes, I know you have a life, but can we just like get back to the mystery? But here it wasn't. I really liked his daughter, and that dynamic, and how they functioned as a family unit, or sometimes didn't function as a family unit. It was actually a pretty interesting subplot. So yeah, there was a bit at the end that was a little contrived, and I'm like, you really didn't see that coming? All right. And if you've read a lot of mysteries, you probably know what happened with the girl on the horse. You have some idea, but there are some really good explorations of all the possibilities there. And so yeah, I had a good time with this. This was I can't remember if this was a debut or not, but it was a debut. Yeah, I can see a few like debut author, debut novelist missteps maybe, but overall it was a really solid read, and I quite liked it. I liked the characters. You know, it talks about, you know, the families of the missing women, and goes into a lot of detail there. So yeah, I was pretty pleased with this. So and I'm trying to think. I don't think it counts for any of the other prompts. There are no undead creatures in this. There is no map. Well, I listened to it on audiobook, so maybe the text copy has a map. I don't know. I haven't looked at the Kindle edition or a physical copy to know if it has a map. It does have the alias, and there isn't really a trickster character, I wouldn't say. So it's just the alias one, but it would count for that. And of course, the prompts are completely optional. So you don't have to do prompts. It's certainly mysterious enough to just count on that. And then we've got Love Debugged, an enemies to lovers romance, and this is supposedly a mystery. It's like, yeah, there's there is supposedly a computer sabotage mystery in here. Okay, an enemies to lovers romance. This is not an enemies to lovers romance. Not by any stretch of the imagination. So if you're looking for an enemies to lovers romance, this is not it. And it just pissed me off. And there's no plot to speak of. Yeah, I gave it 1 star because it's like, it's erotica with some computer technobabble thrown in. And I'm like, he can tell she's super detail oriented and excellent programmer because she found a syntax error where there was the closed parenthesis was missing. Ellie, that's and I am not a computer programmer, but I hang out with a lot of computer techie people, and their conversations, and they talk shop a lot around me. Their conversations sounded absolutely nothing like this. And yeah, some of them are app developers, and this the main character, the male lead in this is he developed this financial app, and that revolutionized the financial tech industry. And it's like, really? And he's like 25 years old and a billionaire, and he's got a reputation as a playboy. And so his head programmer, who is the female lead, is, she's heard of his reputation as a playboy. So even though she's really attracted to him, she doesn't want anything. Oh, I couldn't possibly have, because, I've just come out of a bad relationship and I don't want to enter another one, blah, blah, blah. That's, I guess, what they're calling enemies. I don't know. Anyway, I pretty much hated this book, and it was a waste of time. And I'm wasting more time just by talking about it. All I really have to tell you is that it was awful, and it's not what it says on the tin. So I cannot think of anybody I would recommend this to. Even if you're just looking for smut, it's not even great at that. So, all right. So moving on. Autobiography of Red. And I read this for the library has a queer book club, and for queer literature, books by queer authors. And I live in a town that has 3 queer book clubs that I know of. There are probably more. But this, I don't know, I listened to this on audiobook, and I really kind of regret that decision. It flowed nicely. This is a novel in verse, though, and or novella. I'd say it's pretty short. It's this is audiobook, 4 pages, so less than 4 hours. I think it was like 4 hours and 1 minute, something like that. And the narration was great. It flowed well. It felt poetic, but I found myself wanting to see how it was laid out on the page, what it looked like, what the, where the stanzas were, where the line breaks were. So I do kind of regret that. And there are certain things that I think I probably would have done better, understood better if I'd seen them on the page and physically read them with my eyeballs instead of listening, because I'm a visual thinker, and seeing things, a lot of times when I'm listening to something, I have to put it into a visual form for my brain to understand it. And sometimes that works really well. Sometimes I can just make a little movie in my mind and it's great. And sometimes with something, because this has a lot of abstraction, it has a lot of other stuff in it too. And yeah, check the trigger warnings if you have any issues with certain things, certain topics. There is abuse. There's abusive relationships. There's some, yeah, and there's just a bunch of weird stuff. So yeah, check content warnings. But it's one of those, I think I'm going to reread it because I think I would really benefit from possibly from listening to it again, but with the text in front of me. And I think I will get more out of it, which is not to say that I didn't get anything out of it. No, I thought this was a fascinating book, and with a lot of really sly humor, but it's also really weird in spots, and there's a bunch of stuff that I'm like, I don't know what happened there. But the discussion, the book, and this is why I love book clubs. The book club discussion really did clarify a lot of things for me. So that's one thing if I would recommend is if you are going to read this is to do a buddy read with somebody at the very least, or make it a book club read, or at the very least just find somebody else who's read it and is willing to talk you through some things, because yeah, there's some stuff that is like, yeah, I'm just gonna have to reread that because I still don't know what happened there. But it's and I think a lot of it is that I am just not that well versed in the classics, in Greek mythology. And I mean, I know about Heracles, I know about the labors, but I actually never heard of this character, the Geryon character, who is apparently well known from the labors of Hercules and Heracles. And I don't remember that. So yeah, I don't really have the background. So if you are also lacking in education on the classics, yeah, find someone who can kind of help you get up to speed on that. But yeah, I do recommend it. I only give it 3 stars because, and that's a me thing, because I just really wasn't quite there. And then the 4th book I finished last week, and that is Sisters of the Lost Nation. And let's see, this was nominee for Best Horror last year, for the Goodreads choice. And the author, Nick Medina, I believe this was also a debut novel. Overall, yeah, I really like this. I gave it 4 stars. I think my issues, there were some pacing issues. And this is another one that I think, at least for me, suffered in the audiobook format. The narration was good. However, this has a lot of flashbacks and skipping around. And even though the chapters are labeled with, because it involves missing young women, from this tribe's reservation. It's a fictional tribe, Dakota, not Dakota. I kept hearing Dakota, but they kept describing, this Louisiana landscape, and I'm like, Dakota? Wait, what? But it's a fictional tribe called the Dakota, and in his author's notes, he does actually give some background as to how he developed this fictional tribal nations culture for the book, and taking pieces from Native American lore in general, and other indigenous things. I'm sorry, I'm stating this very, very badly. He's more eloquent in his notes. But yeah, so yeah, there's some women going missing from the reservation. There's this big casino where our main character works, and she's a chambermaid, and she knows there's some hinky shit going on at this casino, and the tribal leadership is probably involved, and so she's trying to piece everything together. And at the same time, she's also, one woman who went missing was actually the um like the tribal storyteller kind of person. She maintained their lore and everything, and so she was really close to this woman, so she is trying to put together, trying to maintain that cultural identity there, and the cultural lore and everything. And uh I don't think it's a spoiler to say that it goes into some of her own personal identity stuff that is um kind of tied in with the tribal two-spirit attitude, the concept of a two-spirit person. And yeah, it has a lot in it. And then there's this overriding horror element of, well, I'd say overriding, no, not overriding. That's kind of the problem I had with it. Every once in a while, it tosses in this monster that is a rolling head, that, and there are different ideas as to whose head it is, but it's this monster, and she actually encounters the monster. But of course, people are telling her, oh no, that was probably just a rabid raccoon. So it's like, and yeah, so is it gaslighting? Are they gaslighting her, or just not believing her, or are they? Yeah, so I don't know. I felt like there are horror elements and there are thriller elements, and I felt like they just didn't really combine that well. Um, yeah, and there were some pacing issues, and then how some of the character interactions went, and then it wasn't clear who's, at least in the audiobook, um I was really fuzzy on who disappeared when, and the whole timeline was just really kind of messed up for me. And I've read books where that's actually a narrative technique, and I've seen it employed to great effect in places, but I don't feel like this was one of those. I might feel differently if I were to read a print edition or a text edition. Um, so your mileage may vary. I would recommend, if you have a text edition available of some sort, to at least start with that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the narration. It just um, it it was really hard for me to follow. So those are my 4. Let's see. This one, it does. Yeah, there is somebody using an alias. That is true. So that works for that. Um, I am not aware of a map. I don't know. Maybe the print edition has a map of the reservation. I'm not sure how useful that would be, but an undead character, that's open to interpretation. There is a rolling head monster, disembodied head monster thing. Maybe. Make up your own mind on that. And then trickster, agent, provocateur. Not really. The closest character to that I can think of, he was just really a dumbass kid. So yeah, I don't think he counts. And the other potentials were they were just criminals. Yeah. But anyway, the ending, I did find the ending pretty satisfying. So despite some of the, some of the missteps, and I think this was a debut novel as well. So, despite some debut novelist missteps, it ended pretty solidly. It got there. I feel like it mostly did what it was supposed to do. But if you're looking for straight up horror, no, this is way more a thriller than a horror novel. But if you're looking for a thriller, hey. So those are my 4 books. Let's see. So talking a little bit about what I am reading to finish up the month of May. Let's see. I'll stop sharing for a little bit here. So for an undead character, I'm still, I don't know, it's going to be just a matter of which I get to first, which I finish first, because I don't know, I have a bunch, I have some books on my nightstand, I have some books on, I have books on one phone, I have books on the other phone, audio, digital, yeah, and some of these are library books that have due dates before others, so it's just going to be sort of a race to see which I get to first. I am still listening to Deathless Divide. It's kind of a long book, so it might take me a little bit to finish it. So I'll probably finish something else before Deathless Divide. I am hoping to finish Deathless Divide before the end of the month, but I'm also reading I thought I had it here. Yeah. But I am also reading I think it's manga, or maybe it's just a comic book, volume 1 of Dead Boy Detectives. I had thought it was zombie detectives, but no, it's 2 boys who are ghosts, and they're detectives. So I'm about halfway through that, I think. I'm slow at reading comic books and graphic novels, so I don't know if I'll finish that one first. But then there's Nettle and Bone, which I was like, oh, animated skeleton. And it's not a spoiler. You meet the bone dog pretty early on. I guess it's a little bit of a spoiler to say that because the bone dog runs off at first, but he comes back. And so, yeah, the bone dog is an important part of the story. And so and I never did finish, I started it for a book club, but I got interrupted, but I'm loving it. It's T. Kingfisher. Love T. Kingfisher stuff. Ursula Vernon. And yeah, so there's an animated skeleton dog. It's great. And I can't remember. Somebody I know was looking for a book with Fowl, featuring Fowl. There is a possessed chicken in the story. That's all I'm saying. So let's see. So that's my undead character. Those are my most likely reads. One of those 3 will be my undead character book. The book with the map is A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. And I think I've shown you the map before. There it is. And I think it shows areas throughout the book. I'm also listening to it. It turns out it's included in my cheapy subscription on Audible. So yeah, and there are more maps throughout the book, but I'm listening to it. I had started this, I don't know, several years ago, and I wasn't doing well with it. Listening to the audiobook has really helped. I don't know why exactly. Different books, different narrators hit differently for me. And for me, now I'm able to actually kind of get into the text version, so I'm going kind of back and forth a little bit because, this has the maps, right? So, but now I can look at the maps while I'm listening to the story. It's kind of cool. And let's see. And yeah, I've only got a few hours left of listening to that. So should finish that up soon. Character using an alias. I ended up using The Fury by Alex Michaelides. And I talked at length about that one, I think, last week. So I'm not going to say anything more about that. I gave it 2 stars. But yeah, obviously I tend to read a lot of books that have, Wizard of Earthsea. You count that for both. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. The prompts are optional. So if you want to, combine the prompts, that's fine too. Main character has several names. All the wizards have multiple names. They've got their true name and yeah. So MAYhem is the trickster character. So I had been planning to listen to Trickster's Choice by Tamara Pierce. I do have that on audiobook. I have not started it yet. There are I do have shorter things that I could count for Trickster. I'm not exactly certain what I'm going to do yet, though. I did get something and the Audible freebie kind of thing, and I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was something about it's like a fairy tale or something, an African folk tale, I think, with a trickster character. So not a Nancy. I forget. I'm gonna have to go look at what all I've picked up on Audible lately, but I did find something there that would count for that, and it was only like 4 or 5 hours long, I think. So I will probably do that instead. And I was wanting to find something from a trickster character from a tradition that I was unfamiliar with, because I've read a number of trickster stories from like Native American traditions and things like that, and also Celtic traditions. So I'm pretty sure this one that I found was an African tradition. So I think that will be cool. So yeah, look forward to hearing what everybody is reading for, even if it's not for a prompt, if it's just something mysterious or chaotic. That. And then let's see, going on to other May readathons. Okay, so Daphne du Maurier, I am still reading The Flight of the Falcon, and it's getting really interesting and kind of weird and creepy. That's all I'm going to say right now. But yeah, I should have that finished up within the next day or two. And let's see, Asian readathon. Okay, so there were 5 prompts, and you're allowed to combine them. And of course, they're optional. But the idea is just to read Asian or Asian American or Asian heritage authors or Pacific Islander heritage. authors. Let's see, for read a book with a story, character, or world that represents what you would want in your next life. I read An Immense World by Ed Yong, who was born in Malaysia. He's now, I believe, a British citizen, but then I think he moved to America. I'm not sure on that last bit. Last I heard, he was a British citizen. And An Immense World was amazing. I think I've already talked about it in previous book reports, but yeah, he won the Pulitzer for his COVID-19 reporting. And this is just looking at various senses and, how animals, how other creatures in our world sense and make sense of the world and how they see things, how they communicate and understand things. And it's just, there's so much. And there's so much we still don't know. But that was an amazing read, and I highly recommend it. For the fourth prompt, which is read a debut book, I just finished Chlorine by Jade Song, and I will talk about that next week. But it was, it could also fit in. It could also be considered an underrated book. And I'm not sure. I'm gathering that Jade Song's ethnic background is Chinese, or maybe Chinese and a mixture, maybe, I don't know, Vietnamese, maybe, I don't know. And that's one thing. The Asian readathon, you're encouraged to read, each prompt to read from a different ethnic, a different ethnicity, and there are some authors that just really don't want to talk about their ethnicity, and I'm like, okay, fine. It's so I feel, because I haven't seen much of anything talking about this author's ethnicity, and even though the character seems to be a lot of her culture seems to be Chinese, but then there's some things that seem Vietnamese, and so I don't really know. But they do focus on the Chinese portion of her background. But so I don't know. I'm kind of guessing at that, but just for the purposes of the readathon, and I'm uncomfortable doing that. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I feel like if somebody, it's sort of like if someone, especially in America, it's kind of a touchy subject. It's like, oh, where are you from? America. I'm from New Jersey or whatever. It's like, no, where are you really from? It's like, oh, those microaggressions are really, it's, I don't know. So I feel really uncomfortable kind of pushing. It's like, oh, yeah, but what's your ethnicity? And it's a really kind of weird compared to how that's presented. Whereas if I were to go around saying, oh, I'm Swedish American, they're like, oh, you were born in Stockholm or something? And I'm like, well, no, my great grandmother was, but was born in somewhere in Sweden. And so it's, yeah, America just gets really weird when it comes to ethnicity and ethnic backgrounds and things like that. It's like some ethnic backgrounds are more interesting than others, I guess. I don't know. It's just a very odd thing. But anyway, the other three, one is just to read a book written by an Asian author. So that could combine with either of those. And by Asian, they mean the broad, Asian heritage. And yeah, which Yeah. 2, read a book that feels timeless. So I don't know. I've got a few ideas for that, but I'm not sure because I won't know for sure until I read them whether they feel timeless or not. So I kind of don't want to say. And then read an underrated book. I was actually thinking of going with Lapvona. I've ended up DNFing Lapvona, and I'll talk more about that next week when I talk about chlorine, because I started Lapvona and I read chlorine for the same book club, and I don't know, they both affected me in the same way in certain ways, but yet I felt compelled to finish one but not the other. So that's something I'll talk about next week. Oh, and I never did say what in an immense world, it says read a book with something that represents what you would want in your next life, because the theme is past lives movie. The past lives loosely themed around the upcoming movie Past Lives. So I don't know, an immense world talks a lot about communication and how varied communication is, and how differently different animals use the world see the world about them. Their was it Umwelt, I think was the word, and how they interpret and make sense and of each other, how they communicate with each other, how they communicate with other species or try to communicate with other species. It's like, I know cats are probably very disappointed in us and our communication skills. But he talked a lot about how, it's like how much better the world would be if humans had this, if all humans had this understanding of how diverse the world is, how different all creatures are, and how, how we can make the world a better place with this understanding. And so that was sort of an underlying theme to everything in the book. And so, yeah, in my next life, I would want a world where all creatures put some effort into understanding everybody else and other creatures. An underrated book. And I mean, I could use chlorine for that because I do think it was probably underrated. But I'm thinking of, let's see, some other things I have. Well, I couldn't really call this underrated. I'm reading this for, what am I reading this for? Literally Dead book club, I think. The Vegetarian by Hong Kong. And I really don't know anything about this. I've read descriptions of it and I still don't really know what it's about. So I'm just going to have to jump in and kind of cool and see what it's about. But it has won an award, multiple awards. I don't know. It is an award-winning book. And it's short, so surely even if I don't like it, I can make it through. I gather it has a lot of body horror, and I don't do great with body horror. You probably know that about me if you've been watching my channel much at all. And let's see. Looking over my list of other things, there's something called Making Space. And I believe the author is Vietnamese, and I am probably going to really screw this up, but I think it's Thich Nhat Hanh, maybe? I don't know. Apparently I think it's a well-known, I think they're a well-known author, but I don't know much about Vietnamese authors in general. I'm not sure if I've ever read anything by a Vietnamese author. So we'll see. There's also the Henna Wars, which even though I think it's set in Dublin, but I think the author is Indian, like Indian Irish, or maybe Irish, but her parents are Indian. I don't know. That's one I'd have to look up. Oh, the vegetarian Hong Kong is Korean, so there's that. I also I am reading City Under One Roof by Iris Yamashita. I believe she's Japanese American, but that is, and I probably could use that one for debut, but that might end up, because it doesn't have a really high rating. It's like 3.5 something on Goodreads, but I'm really enjoying it. So that I may consider that my underrated book. So I have a lot of options, and we'll just see which ones I finish first. And where I go with that. And then, Zombie Awareness Month. Let's see. I mean, I've already talked about zombie stuff. And I don't have the list of prompts. You know, there's ZOMBIE. And there's one for each letter. But most of them are really flexible. It's like you can watch something, you can read something, and so yeah, I've got a couple different zombie things that I've got going, like I talked about before. I might end up, and Thursday, one of the prompts is to eat a zombie snack or beverage, drink a zombie beverage, zombie-related beverage, and so with any luck, cross your fingers that I will have appropriate ingredients on Thursday to experiment with fake zombie recipes. And yeah, so I've got to get some pineapple juice, got to get some dark spiced rum alternative, something kind of rum-like. Either that or go refill on Kraken, which I really don't want to do. So yeah, so I probably do need to watch a zombie TV show. I'll probably just hop on Netflix or Max or something, HBO, and see what's available. You know, I talked about watching Warm Bodies, which I've already read the book, or I may, I don't know, watch a classic zombie movie of some sort. We'll see what's available. And let's see. So looking ahead to other, and all of these I'll go back and update the description box to show. I think Daphne du Maurier was, I think, Lauren in the books, and Asian Readathon was with Cindy, and Zombie Awareness is Kat at Kat's Novel Adventures. And then let's see. Oh gosh, I've got so many. And these are just the ones that I could think of as I was typing up the banner. So I probably have more. There's June on the Range, and that is Michael Vaughn, I think. And like I said, I'll update below. So June on the Range, So I did pick out I had a list. What do I do with it? Yes, it is. So I picked out a Zane Grey, and because the first two prompts are read a book by Zane Grey and read a book by Louis L'Amour. So the Zane Grey one is The Spirit of the Border, and I have that in my Kindle library. I'm not sure where it came from or where I got it. Maybe last year I got it because it's like, oh, Zane Grey, and then realized, oh, I have this other one already, but Betty Zane. So so The Spirit of the Border is my Zane Grey, and I think that's actually the second. Yeah, I already had that one, and last year, and I didn't know where it came from, but I realized it was the second book in the series, and the first book was Betty Zane. So I went ahead and got that on Hoopla or something, and then found out, oh, I have hardcover of it already, but didn't realize that till I'd already finished the ebook version, or the audiobook. Yeah, that was audiobook. And so Spirit of the Border is the second book in that. And I guess technically they're not Westerns, they're frontier stories. Because I think this one's also set in Ohio, which is not really, at least today, we don't consider that Western. But it was the frontier at the time. And then Louis L'Amour, I am reading. Sorry, there it is. Showdown Trail. And yeah, Louis L'Amour, it was a hard time, going through like Hoopla and Audible freebies and stuff. Everything was like all these collections of short stories. And it's like, no, I want an actual like novel or novella. And this was one of the few that I believe is an actual like novella. So Showdown Trail, and if I understand correctly, it was published earlier under a different name. He started off writing for magazines, or I'm not going to remember this correctly. So I'll just say when he first started his writing career, he wrote under a name that was not Louis L'Amour. And then he republished it under Louis L'Amour. So that is Showdown Trail. And then read two other Westerns. So I thought I had them. Well, I do have Six Gun Tarot, the Six Gun Tarot by R.S. Belcher, I'm not sure which. I should find that out. But yeah, this one looks like all kinds of spooky, creepy fun. And that is a Western. Oh my gosh, look at what I found. This is not a Western. It's set in Paris, but it's Is He Dead? That I've been looking for what, a week and a half now? But and here's the other one. This is News of the World by Paulette Giles. Also has a map. And I don't know, it has deckled edges if you want a book with deckled edges for whatever reason. I know sometimes challenges will be like, read a book with deckled edges. So there you go. And I still haven't watched the movie with Tom Hanks. Okay. So those, but I have all sorts of other Westerns that are good possibilities. There's a zombie book, Bodacious Creed, a steampunk zombie Western. And I've got that on Kindle, I believe. I don't know if this counts as a Western. It's The Pot Thief Who Studied Calvin. It's a murder mystery. And the main character is an Albuquerque pottery dealer. So I don't know, that might count as a Western. And there's all sorts of like modern Westerns. CJ Box writes a series, I think the Joe Pickett series, and there's the Longmire series. Those are modern Westerns. And yeah, there's a lot. And, you know, oh gosh. There's a series that's like set in national parks in the West. I think Arches something. I'm not remembering that correctly, but and then there's another. It's post-apocalyptic steampunk, and that is the Juniper Wars series, and that starts with the first one is Dandelion Iron. At least it was when it first came out. He went and retitled everything. He reissued them all and retitled them. I have is it a trilogy? I have like at least the first 2 books with the original titles. But yeah, I'd have to look up. But yeah, he was asking online. He's like, "Oh, should I change the titles to whatever girls?" And I'm like, "No, don't do that. That's just everybody's doing that, putting girl in the titles." But no, he changed all the titles so that they have girl or girls in them. I'm like, really. But anyway, the first one was originally Dandelion Iron, and I loved it. And so I might read this. I know I have the second book in that series, so I might get that one out. And but yeah, it's post-apocalyptic but steampunk. It's great. So yeah, so that's June on the Range. And then Big Book Summer. I don't know, does this count as Big Book Summer? How many pages is this? No, it's not quite 400 pages. And that is, oh gosh, who's running that? I've forgotten. I'm going to have to look that up and link to their channel in the description box. Because I forget. I've watched so many videos now, I forget which person is actually started Big Books. But it is just to read throughout the summer, starting with started last Friday, the beginning of the holiday weekend here in the States. Is sort of the unofficial kickoff to summer, and ends on Labor Day, which I believe is September 2nd this year. So during the summer, it's just a push to read books that are 400 pages or longer. And so I've got several that count. I still haven't finished. In fact, I'm not very far in at all. So I'm going to count this, even though I started it before Friday. But this is The Mountain in the Sea. And so this will count for cephalopods and cetaceans next month, that's the theme for Genreland next month. And where can I put this that it's not going to go somewhere I don't want it to go? All right, I think it's good. And let's see some other things. What do I have on the list? Ooh, A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. I have a paperback somewhere, but I do have audio for that. So finally read that. That's Mark Twain. Have never read that. And then, oh man, I should have read that this month for Genreland. The theme was medieval, and I gotta find something for that real quick. I think I'm gonna have to find a picture book about Vikings or something, because I I have several murder mysteries that have medieval settings, and I was like, oh, I'll read one of those. And then I started reading Lapfona, and I thought, oh, this is medieval. I can count this. And then I finally decided, no, it's taken me all month to get to the 20% mark in this book. No, I'm giving up. So now I got to find something really short and quick and medieval. And A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court is not short. It's a big book, summer book. What else do I have coming up? I still have Dead 11. I picked that up for Old School April, actually, and it's renewed a couple times. So I will have that for a couple weeks yet. So maybe I'll get to that before it has to go back to the library. And let's see, Children of Ruin, Cephalopods and Cetaceans. That's by Adrian Tchaikovsky. So I'll be reading that. And got some other things that I've been looking at for later in the summer. Home Run by Michael Picard. And possibly Bloodlands. I forget who the author is on that. I think it's a World War I book. Yeah. Or maybe it's World War II. It's about a war in Europe. But both of those were recommended to me by friends for the 12 books recommended by 12 friends challenge. So both of those are over 400 pages. Stranger Than Fiction, and this is August actually, that I'm planning ahead a little bit. Behave, and I forget the author on that, but it's a human behavioral book. But that's over 400. That's over 700 pages, so I better start on that now. And then Some Desperate Glory is apparently over 400 pages, and that is for Strange Worlds in August. And then in July, Homecoming, and I think that's a Kate. I can't remember that author. It's an author I've read a lot of, does dual timeline things, usually involving Australia, if not completely set in Australia. But that's another one that was recommended to me by a friend. Oh, Shark Heart is a high tea book club selection for July. I read the blurb and I was like, that just sounds really weird. And that's all I really got from the blurb. So don't know much about that. And The Spear Cuts Through Water, which is July's Strange Worlds pick. And that is over 400 pages. So I've got quite a few here, all set to go for big book summer, spread out over several months, because I will need several months to read that many big books. I am always intimidated by big books, and I don't know, Tchaikovsky, does that man sleep or eat or anything? Because he's written a lot of books, and so many. I mean, occasionally he puts out a novella, but most of them are like 400, 500, 600 pages. Like, geez, dude, take a break. And then Sci-Fi Summer, and I've shown you a few of those. And that is, and I'll link to the website. I think it's on Blogspot, maybe Blogger. There's a blog for Seasons of Reading, and is it every other month now? I think they do some sort of readathon pretty much every other month. And in June, it's Sci-Fi Summer. And so, The Mountain in the Sea is science fiction, Ruin was Children of Ruin is science fiction. My June book. Okay, June. Are there any other science fictions? Surely I'm reading more science fiction than that. I'm reading Westerns. A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court is time travel. So fantasy, science fiction. What is time travel? Do we know? Six Gun Tarot, I think, is science fantasy, science fiction, fantasy. I mean, it's speculative fiction. I have, Eversion is Strange Worlds. Oh, and I just got the hold pickup notice from the library. So yay, I don't have to like burn a Libro credit. And Death by Silver, I believe, is science fiction or science fantasy. It's steampunk. That's for the virtual steampunk book club. I don't know what that is. And there's some others that might be science fiction, but I have a feeling they're more fantasy than science fiction. And sometimes it's like, how do you draw the line? Can it be both? Sure, it can be both. But Eversion, I'm not sure what... I've forgotten what Eversion is about, but I'm pretty sure that one is... I seem to remember like spaceships on the cover, so that one is probably science fiction. I figure if it has spaceships, it's science fiction, even if it has magic. It's still science fiction. I mean, Star Wars is science fiction, but my gosh, there's a lot of like magic and stuff in there. So, so that is, and then there is, the summer, the local library is doing their summer adventure bingo board, but most of the things on the bingo board are not very specific reading things. It's like read this kind of book or whatever. There is one to read an award winner, but I just finished that one. That was Jade Song's book Chlorine won the Alex Award. I think just this year, because I think that just came out last year. So that's a thing I need to mark off my bingo board. And yeah, I think I'm reaching my limit. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed hearing me talk about all these books that I'm trying to get finished soon, and books that I've been enjoying or not enjoying over the last week. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you either in the chat now as we're wrapping up, or in the comments below if you're watching this on replay. And yeah, just put in some comments about what you're reading, whether you're doing any of these challenges. And I'm a big du Maurier fan, so if you're reading something for Daphne du Maurier, I'd love to hear what you're reading for that and if you're liking it. And I think that's about it for this week. I will be back on Thursday, hopefully, to mix up some tasty, fruity beverages that may or may not taste anything like rum. I don't know, but I'll be back on Thursday for that. And so, and if you want to use real rum, you are certainly welcome to, and you'll probably have a better time. But drink responsibly. And see you for that, because we'll be doing reading and productivity sprints. And so I don't know how rum affects you for that, but good luck. And hope to see you on Thursday. And if not, I'll see you around for other things. And I'll be back next week on Monday or Tuesday to talk about all these books I've been hinting about, and my reading this week and how June is going. hopefully June gets off to a good start. And I hope that your weather is treating you well, or I hope you're not having earthquakes or tsunamis or anything horrible like that. But anyway, it's been great. And if you like, if you enjoyed having fun, had fun hanging out with me, I hope you'll hit the like button. And if you subscribe, then you can also get notifications of other things going on, and join me later. And I think that's it for now. Talk at you later.